Hey guys, how you guys doing this week? This is our overview video for the week. Last week we did the exam, which I hope you did well on. The curve is listed in there, and I think it should be in your comments. I usually have a little larger curve on the first exam, and that's partly because some of you guys are just getting used to how the exams work out here online, trying to figure out how to pace yourself. Trying to go. Some of you guys went through it, maybe didn't pace yourself very well the first time, and therefore spent a lot of time on the first half, but not as much on the second half. So the curve usually ends up being a little bit bigger on that first exam than the other exams in the future. So just remember that a little bit. So there, if I remember right, it was about a 13% curve. That curve had also included with it that I threw out a couple questions because of some technical issues that people were having with a couple of the pictures. They were showing up on a couple of the questions, and so I had to throw those questions out so that it would be fair for everyone there. So, but anyways, that was corrected, and that's part of your curve. And so, if I remember right, the raw score, it added 8.8 points to your each individual score. I do what we call a sliding curve, so everybody's goes up from whatever they got. So let's say you got 50 points out of the 68 or whatever that was there. That means you'd end up with 58.8, right, out of 68 instead. Okay, but that's just how it goes, and then it gets into a percentage as it goes into the exams later on. Now, after we did your exam last week, you should have started into plate tectonics. Remember, plate tectonics is that unifying theory that really connects everything together, and we're going to try to help you get some of those connections today as we look a little bit more into how this all works. And so that's an important part. Plate tectonics is a very important idea, and we'll continually come back to it throughout the semester. But I wanted to introduce it now because it's the point now where we have to start talking about it more. But now that we have enough of some of these other processes under our belt, plate tectonics makes more sense in a sense. So that hopefully in our discussion this week, we'll be doing that a little bit more of how we make these connections from all the stuff we've talked about before and applying it to plate tectonics right now. So this week, as always, I'll be inserting my video right here, since that's where you got it from. I'm just going to go walk you through here for this week. You should finish up your plate tectonic stuff this week. So the first half is going to be finishing up that plate tectonics. If you did not finish up your videos from last week, or go back and do that in Module 5. All that material for plate tectonics is back in Module 5. I did not expect you to do that all in 1 week. That's half of that is for this week. And so, however, we are starting into a new topic for this week, but it's metamorphic rocks. And metamorphic rocks usually don't take as long as some of these other ones that we've done in the past. Okay, and so we only spend half a week on metamorphic rocks. So we spent half of plate tectonics last week and half plate tectonics this week, and then the rest is that. However, the objectives and the readings and stuff for this week is part of metamorphic rocks. So if you see here the objectives, this is for the big ideas for the metamorphic rocks section. The readings says if you haven't finished chapter 2, which is the plate tectonic setting, go back and do that. But also to start on that section for metamorphic rocks. And the glossary here is for the metamorphic rocks here this time. If you go to lectures, which they haven't been posted yet, but they will also be just for metamorphic rocks. If you want to go to this plate tectonic one, you'd go back to Module 5, right, if you're finishing up those. So I'm going to skip the discussions for a second and go to the assignments. If you notice, the first assignment, which is going to be related to plate tectonics, that should be done by Tuesday. This is an online activity. That means that's going to be the one that's a little bit tougher because we did just the reading quiz last week. Last week with just you should have had the exam and then should have had it a little bit easier for the rest of the week because I canceled your discussion as well to give you guys a little bit of a break. But we're going to get back into it this week. So we're going to start off with online activity with plate tectonics, and then we're going to be doing an online activity with metamorphic rocks. Okay, it's half reading quiz, half online activity, because we just don't spend as much time on metamorphic rocks as in other places. So in this discussion board, once again, you're going to be in groups. You're going to be in groups of 10. I try to mix up the groups a little bit more this time, where you're not with the same exact people of last time. Some groups were not posting very well, and other groups were doing awesome. So some of these groups were getting great conversations back and forth, and other ones were really struggling. And so I tried to move people around a little bit more, and so hopefully the groups are more representative of individuals who have been doing some really good posts, with those who are still a little bit struggling a little bit, so that way we can each help each other out instead of having a lot of people struggling together, whereas others are excelling together, right? And so I'm hopefully that will help a little bit more as I move some of you guys around. Now, within your groups. Now, this week, I'm going to ask you guys to start making some of our connections with plate tectonics. Remember that plate tectonics is what we call that unifying theory, okay? And so when we go to that discussion board here this time, let me kind of click on it, and it'll take us there. It's that unifying theory that connects a lot of the ideas of earth sciences together. So we're going to try to help you connect these ideas with some of the features, and the features that are associated with the areas where plate tectonic boundaries are, with some of the things that we've discussed in class. So here's some examples of plate tectonic boundaries and the different types of plate tectonic boundaries. So we have the three types of convergence: ocean-ocean convergence, ocean-continental convergence, continental-continental convergence. Then the two types of divergence: continental divergence and oceanic divergence. The two types of hotspots: the oceanic hotspot and the continental hotspot. Then we have transform faults. Now, transform faults in oceanic settings and in continental settings are fairly similar, and so we're just going to be doing transform faults. Now, cratons are not necessarily a plate boundary type, but it is a plate related to plate tectonics, and so I want you to talk about what a craton, or I could actually suggest these as shields. We talk about them as shields in the lectures, and I'll write down shields in parentheses there. And then the last one is also a passive margin, which is an example or of not necessarily a boundary type, but it's still related to plate tectonics. And so I wanted to include those so we can get our 10 discussion points. So what you guys are going to do for your original post is you're going to pick one of the tectonic settings listed above. As before, you're going to make sure that somebody else hasn't done that one first, right? Go down and scroll down and see if somebody else has done one already. But if they haven't, go ahead with it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to be writing a summary of your plate tectonic setting. I gave you some questions down below that actually will help you write your summary. Some of the questions might not apply to your setting, but a lot of them will. Okay. Some of the settings are a lot more straightforward than others, and so some of them are a lot more complicated, and therefore have more material with it. So what I want you to do is I want you to describe in your own words the relative plate motion at that location. Okay, how much motion there is, and if there is no motion now, was there motion in the past, and how do you know? Describe if there is volcanic features at the setting or not. If there are, why are there volcanoes? What kind of volcanoes would you find? What kind of igneous rocks would you find at that location? And what processes caused that there to be melting at that location? Well, how is plate tectonics causing that melting to occur? If there's no volcanic activity, you should describe why not, okay? Because there's reasons why we have volcanics around the world. Then you're going to describe if you would find metamorphic rocks in the location and the type of metamorphism that you would be present in the setting. That's talked about in our lectures this week, and so you should be able to get that from there. Then the next one is trying to make connections all the way back from our mineral resources and some of our sedimentary rocks and stuff like that, and igneous rocks. We talked about this as well, where we can get different resources concentrated because of plate tectonics. Just as a hint, there in some of those some of the slides in your last module, towards the end of some of those lecture slides, there was a great slide that will help you with this and help you make some of those connections, because we get gold in some plate boundaries, because of the physical processes that are occurring there, whereas in other ones we won't. Okay, or other places we get oil or some of those other geological resources, but other places we don't. So that's something to go back and look at as well. The last one is describe. This one is one that you have to do. And I'm going to put that. I'll put it in there. This one is required. Some of these other ones are not as required because they might not apply. Now you should do every one that applies to yours. Okay, you have to do every one that applies to yours. So this last one is describe at least one location in the world that would be a good example of this tectonic setting. If you cannot find a modern setting, then you need to go back in the past and find a past one. Okay, which means you might need to do some research to figure out, well, where would this kind of plate boundary have been in the past, and where's an example of that? And they're all over the place. You have every single one of these settings has at least has multiple locations around the world, either in the present or in the past where these things were. Okay, now that's your original post. When you comment, I want you to do one portion of your comment should be specific. You can make as many comments as you want. You can do more comments, but you have to have at least 2 of your comments have at least an additional location in the world where it'd be an example of the tectonic setting that other individual said. So let's say one individual worked on convergent plate boundaries and they said a specific place in the world. You'd have to find another place in the world where that might be the case, or if you can't find another modern place, you'd have to find it in the past. Right? The reason I want to do this is because I will promise you that on our next exam, I will be doing these things. I'll be giving you guys summaries of tectonic settings, and you will have to connect them to the type of plate tectonics there are there, and even examples around the world. So that's why I'm trying to get you guys to do this now, to give you guys examples and to do that. I've used some of those examples in the plate tectonic lecture series, and so you should be able to find some of those there. But hopefully you guys can, if you guys want to use some of those, that's fine. If you go back and use some of those, but you're not going to be able to find. I don't think 2 for every single one. So you need to go back and actually get some more examples for some of you guys. Okay, if you have any, as always, make sure you respond to all your comments. That might even mean if you have to come back on a Saturday or a Sunday to actually say, hey, did anybody comment on my post at the last minute before it was due? And that way you can get full credit. Some people are not, and this is not lots of times those people who start early's fault, but some people are doing this at the very, very last second. Therefore, people are not even having time to reply back. I would say just suggest that you go back, try to go back on Saturday or Sunday if you can to reply to all your comments. That will help with the migrating, because sometimes it's hard for me to determine when you posted versus when somebody else has replied and stuff like that. So it makes it easier if all the comments are replied to. But anyways, if you have any other questions, please let me know. As always, I can't read your minds. I need to know what's going on in your head, especially since this is a online class. We don't meet face to face, so I can't read your body language to see if my students are not understanding. Okay, people can't raise their hands and ask, I'm not understanding this point as easy in an online section. So please ask me questions. Do it in the discussion boards. Do it in the general discussion boards. The people can do it. Just ask me questions. I would love to answer anything that you still not understanding. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you later. I hope you guys are enjoying it and learning something along the way. Talk to you later.